evening, and you're watching the Urban Debate. Thank you for joining us. We have a very interesting conversation this evening, and the reason why we're bringing this up is because it's the question that everybody seems to be asking today. People are curious to know how the BJP is likely to perform in the 2019 election. Is there a Modi wave? Is it likely that this election, the BJP will repeat its performance and have a thumping majority like they did in 2014? Or is there no wave? And as a result, will the election and the numbers settle far lower? So I've put together a team of very interesting analysts, no politicians. We're actually going to have a conversation about each chunk of the country and how the BJP is likely to perform in each of those chunks. So we've divided India effectively into the Hindi heartland, the south of India, the east, and the home turf. The home turf here is Maharashtra, Goa, and Gujarat. On the show with me, Bharat Kumar Rao, Badshah Sen, Vinay Tiwari, Kingshuk Nag, and Girish Kuber, all very senior journalists who've been tracking the country and elections for many, many years. Gentlemen, I welcome all of you to this conversation, and I thank you for making time for us. I want to start, obviously, we have to start with the Hindi heartland. Remind our viewers also, Involve is open for you, so is our phone line if you have questions for us. We'll pop the Hindi heartland up on your screen. Now, the reason why we should start here is because it is the lion's share of the seats. And whoever sweeps this part of the country gets to form a government because of the sheer numbers and the size of what we're talking about. So look at your screen, and this was really the reason why BJP swept to power 5 years ago. You'll see Uttar Pradesh, which is the largest contributor of seats to parliament, 71 out of 80, and that was a clean sweep. Rajasthan, 25 out of 25. Madhya Pradesh, 27 out of 29. Jharkhand, 12 out of 14. And of course, Delhi, 7 out of 7. This will really be the important part of this election. Will the BJP be able to repeat this performance? Have things changed in any of these states? Now remember, of the states that you have on your screen, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh just voted in an assembly election, in state elections, and they voted in the Congress. Now in Chhattisgarh, the margin was higher. In Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, the margins were far closer. So what would that mean for an electorate that's going back into voting so close to that election result? So let me open this up first of all, the Hindi heartland, to my panelists. Where do they see this going? Vinay, I'll start with you. You're from the Hindi heartland, you're from Uttar Pradesh, and you've spent most of your career in Delhi. And I know you spend some time talking to people from there, talking to journalists who are on the ground. What has changed? Has anything changed? Will the BJP sweep again?
A lot has changed, but before I answer that, I just wanted to give a caveat. The word wave that was used in 2014 for Mr. Modi was actually there in only two parts of India, that was north and the west. The word was being used in an omnibus sense. There was no wave in the south and there was no wave in the east for the BJP. The wave existed only in the north, where they actually did dramatically well, and of course in the west. And which is why in this election, that's the benchmark that they have to either match or better to be able to make a decisive impact in terms of the number of seats they'll get.
Yes.
Now, if you look at that benchmark, whether they can better North India and West India, and let's start with North India, the odds are stacked heavily against them. And I'm using the word heavily because the bulk of that sweep in North came from Uttar Pradesh, where our graphic is showing 71 on their own, 2 with their allies, Nadal, and that made it 73. So they pretty much swept the whole state. Which was it was actually 10 or 12 seats more than their own internal estimates. They were actually pegging it at 60.
And sweeping Uttar Pradesh like this is unusual, isn't it?
It used to happen during the heydays of the Congress in the 80s, but not since then.
Not recently.
In 1977 it had happened.
That's right.
Yes,
so,
yes.
85 out of 85.
That's
yes.
That meant 85.
But it hasn't happened since then. And it normally goes piecemeal to various parties.
No, it hasn't. So since then, I mean, of course, then delimitation happened and Uttarakhand became a separate state, but certainly it's not happened since then. So this was very unprecedented. Now, in terms of arithmetic, if you simply do an arithmetic, there are various views and theories now currently in UP and in the North on how much the Gathbandhan will get and how much the BJP will get.
Yes.
But I think for our viewers to understand, the larger point is this: there is no question that the BJP can return with 72 out of 80. That's 71 out of 80. That's not going to happen at all.
Okay. You think it's going to be lower or far lower?
That's actually, now you'll have to qualify what does far lower mean, but there is no way that the BJP can actually cross between 50 and 55 seats, no matter how badly the Gadbandhan does. Because the arithmetic in certain seats just doesn't add up for them, no matter how much the swing.
What about the argument that there is no alternative?
The people in UP don't necessarily think that way.
Don't think that
for
way.
them, there is or not. And I tell you, the other thing that I think we should start off by saying, which is another mistake people make when they ask this question, who's winning? I think currently we are having 29 different elections. There is a different election in every state. There is no similarity between one. In fact, in some states, even the regions vary from one to the other. And that just adds to the complication. But in a larger, broad stroke sense, there is no question that the BJP can come back with 71 out of 80 in UP.
Mr. Raj, here's the question. Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, in their latest state elections, did not vote for the BJP. It was a small margin, but let's say that there was a mandate against those state governments. Do you think that that gets carried forward into these general elections as well? Or can people vote completely differently for state and general elections?
More or less, I feel that the trend will continue. Because in 4 months' time, it is difficult to believe that the trend would change. So, mostly this trend would continue in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. There is a margin, if you look at the vote share, it was marginally different. So, little equations here and there would change the equation of winning equations in all the 4 states.
So, if we actually look at it, and I look at what Vinay also said, so from 71, let's assume by what Vinay says, 50-55 is what you've gone down to. So Rajasthan, 25 out of 25, you don't believe that's going to happen again?
No, that will not happen. No. That same percent result in any state now is not possible for BJP. Yeah.
Madhya Pradesh, 27 out of 29, Chhattisgarh, 10 out of 11. So that entire portion of the map was painted saffron.
The entire cow belt, the seats would receive. In 14, it was the cow belt, the Hindi belt, that had given the maximum margin advantage to BJP. I think that situation has changed now. Now BJP will have to depend on other areas of the country.
I just had one quick caveat to add here. In the 3 states that went to polls, you'll have to read Chhattisgarh differently from Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan, simply because in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, the vote share gap between the two is very, very marginal. Chhattisgarh, the vote share gap in the assemblies was nearly 10%, over 10%.
It's decisive.
It's decisive. So there is no way you can bridge that gap in less than 6 months, because the honeymoon period lasts for about a year with the state government. But in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, it's not as if it will completely reverse. They will hold their ground.
So it will mildly reverse. But even, I mean, Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, the result last time was almost a clean sweep.
Yes.
You don't expect that to happen again?
That won't happen, but it's also not going to be the other way around. That they will completely get
Let me bring in Mr. Sen on Bihar and Jharkhand. Mr. Sen, do you believe the BJP can repeat that performance in either Bihar or Jharkhand? Bihar, they were at 22 out of 40, and Jharkhand 12 out of 14. Is there a possibility, and also do you agree with our panelists in the studio, although we miss you in the studio today, do you agree with what Vinay and Mr. Rao are saying, that a clean sweep or a wave is not possible this time?
Well, Faye, I'll begin by saying that proximity to these other two, that is Vinay and Mr. Raut, has been sort of has had a viral impact on me. So I tend to agree with most of what they say. In fact, almost everything. But that apart, to go on to Bihar, I mean, as Vinay pointed out, there are 29 different elections, and in Bihar, there are 2 differences. Of course, it's one of the 29 different elections. It has numerous regions also within. This is also something that Vinay had pointed out. But most importantly, the last time around, the BJP and the JDU fought separately. The JDU was at that point of Nitish Kumar's JDU was at that point of time allied to the opposition, or the Gadbandhan, or whatever you want to call it. This time around, he has switched sides. So we do not really know what kind of an impact that is going to have in the overall picture of Bihar. On his own, Nitish Kumar, if you were just to look at, I'm sorry to use that dreaded term, caste, that caste arithmetic of Nitish is very low, in the sense his support base is very small. It's a Kurmi caste, it's a small caste, but he's a larger than life figure. He has undoubtedly, actually, in a sense, overshadowed his own caste. A large number of people do respect him for the kind of regime he has run in Bihar, particularly women. From whatever I gather, women are very, very thrilled with his prohibition policies. The men are not. There are about 100,000 men in Bihar, rotting in Bihar jails for various crimes, including drinking, smuggling, and so on and so forth. So that is a question mark, how much the prohibition will push Nitish this way or that. So in overall, I would be confident if I say that BJP's performance of 22 is unlikely to happen this time around. There will be a churning of the votes. The JDU, which was with the Mahagathbandhan, is now without. I do not think, for instance, the big factor that has come in, the Mahadalit vote, people like Jiten Ram Majhi, who was humiliated and insulted by Nitish Kumar, is now with the Mahagathbandhan of Lalu Prasad Yadav and the Congress. Then we have HAM, we have Mr. Kushwaha's party. He too has split away from the old BJP combination which won the BJP 22 seats. And to begin with, the BJP is not even fighting 22 seats. It's fighting only 17.
Yes.
So in any case, it has conceded 5 seats to somebody else, one of its partners. So it's unlikely that the BJP, and we are looking now at the core BJP. How many seats will the BJP get in the end in the Lok Sabha, which will then give it a bargaining position with the rest of its allies, and if necessary, others outside its immediate alliance. To this extent, I don't think that Bihar will give the BJP the kind of joy they were hoping to get. They've already conceded 5 seats, so I doubt it's going to be repeated.
Okay.
You're talking now about Jharkhand, or do you want to?
No, but let's also bring in the. I'll come back to you about that, Mr. Nag. Here's an interesting comment that's been made by one of our viewers who says the Modi wave actually only exists inside TV studios at this point. Is that true? Is that another moment where perhaps journalists are reading the country wrong at this point, Mr. Nag?
I don't know what they're reading, but my feeling is that their numbers will come down, and my own feeling is that the BJP will, I'll make a guesstimate, will get around 210 to 220 seats. And I don't want to make predictions about UP and all, but in Andhra Pradesh and all, the BJP really doesn't exist. So they will be dependent on, say, TDP, not TDP is against them, they will be depending on YSR Congress, and in Telangana on TRS. And in Karnataka, I think it is 50-50, they'll get half the seats, half the other seats go to Kumarasamy and company. In West Bengal, I think that BJP will actually open this account and get 6 to 8 seats where they'll be doing better. And Odisha also they'll be doing better. So Odisha and West Bengal are 2 states where BJP will do much better than before. In Odisha, of course, there are 2 angles. In Odisha, there are Lok Sabha polls and there are assembly polls. For the assembly, the people will vote for Mr. Patnaik, and for parliament, they'll vote for Mr. Modi. And in West Bengal, I think BJP will get around 8 to 9 seats. So these 2 states they will gain. In other states like UP and all, as my colleagues have argued, they will lose seats. Right. And if you now want to go to Gujarat, I can tell you.
No, 1 second. Let me at least put the graphic up on the screen.
Now or later? Gujarat, I think.
No, 1 second. So Mr. Nag has already transitioned us into the east, and this was part of the BJP's Look East policy. So let's just put that up. West Bengal, 2 out of 42 was the BJP tally, and we're only looking at purely the BJP, not the allies at this point, because the allies will really depend on where the BJP lands and how much bargaining power everybody has.
Faye, I wanted to say something here that in this election, particularly this 2019 election, I am not ready to think of the opposition, that the ruling party as only BJP. I am looking at it as an NDA. Because standalone, BJP does not have any say, even in Maharashtra, in Western India. So we'll have to calculate the NDA strength and not BJP strength, whether Maharashtra or other states also.
So that total
Punjab,
performance of 298, which is what the BJP did alone last time. You don't believe that they can look at that or look anywhere near that number on their own anymore. They have to look at themselves as a leader of a coalition.
Yeah, correct.
In order to simply
like what had happened in UPA in 2009 and even 2004. That you look at it as a bulk, as a chunk, as a team, and not standalone one party or the other party. There will be one leader, but rest also count.
Yes. In fact, Vinay, I want to ask you this question now, just back of the envelope, scribbling calculation from what you said and what the panel has said so far. It sounds like the BJP will lose about 63 or a little more, close to 70 seats from just the Hindi heartland and a little bit, there wasn't much to lose in South India to begin with. Where will they make up those numbers? Because the East cannot give them those numbers. Those numbers don't exist in the East.
So they will obviously, they can't match the quantum. There's no doubt about that. But yes, if they are going to go down in the north, there is no question that they will go up in the east. Odisha was mentioned by Kingshuk, absolutely right. I mean, they were 1 out of 21. And there is no doubt that in the Lok Sabha elections, they will get much more than one seat, for sure. There's no doubt about that. Because one of the reasons being that Odisha never had an opposition for the last 7-8 years. And the Congress ceded that space long back. Just to give you a nugget, the Congress 6 years ago, 5 years ago, appointed Jagdish Ailer as the state in charge. So you can imagine how seriously they take that state. They have no face, they have no leadership, there's nothing. And the BJP seized that. So obviously they will gain at least 4 or 5, 6 seats more than what they've got. Their aggressive push in the northeast has been a risky strategy. It's a gamble. It may or may not pay off. But the bottom line being that they got 8 out of 25 last time. It will go up. They were hoping to get, at least the target was 22. I doubt if that will happen. But certainly it will be more than 8. So you can imagine another 5 to 10 seats additional that might come in there. Bengal too, they will improve on that. I think Bengal, the rhetoric is a little louder than the reality on the ground. I still think that Mamta is the person to beat in that state, and she's not an easy walkover for anybody. But certainly, from 2 seats, they will certainly improve on that and might get about 7 to 8 seats. So they will shore up some, but clearly not enough to make up for the losses from the Hindi heartland.
But they did have a healthy margin the last time at 282. There was enough margin there too.
There was enough margin. But you see, you'll have to see how the BJP knows this. And if you just want to see why I'm saying so, see their conduct with their allies in the first 3 years of the rule and in the last year of the rule. I mean, you had a situation where Mr. Amit Shah drove up to Matushri, met Uddhav. These are not the signs and sounds that you would have seen in the first 3 years.
In fact, in his first visit to Mumbai after the elections, he didn't go to Matushri at all. And that is considered a bit of a, it's a snub to the Shiv Sena.
I would say it was their arrogance.
Yes.
Which they realized the situation much after that, after say a year and a half. The BJP realized it, and then they came on their knees.
Similarly, sir, if what Bacha was mentioning, if you see in Bihar, they have given away more seats to certain partners than what many people thought they should. They've given away 6 seats to the LJP, for instance, Paswan's party. And there is no one in Bihar who will agree that Paswan is in a winning position in 6 seats. So a lot of people believe that they gave away double the number of seats they should have given. But that's purely because they've realized that they cannot make it without the alliance partners in place.
It was a please one, please all strategy.
Yes. Girish Kuber hasn't spoken yet. Mr. Kuber, do you believe that there is a wave? Is there a wave or is there not a wave? Because, this was the argument that the panelists were making yesterday, in fact, that because of the wave, a lot of people abandoned caste and all of their other traditional reasons of voting and voted simply for the Prime Minister, Mr. Modi. If the wave is missing this time around, they will perhaps go back to voting for either caste or community or whatever those considerations were before he came onto the scene.
No. In the first place, as the first panelist said, there was no wave. It was just only in few states. And if you look at the numbers, out of 273 in those 7 states, BJP back 196, as many as 196. So it's a bunch of few states which are having large number like Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh and Gujarat. Those gave indication as if there is a wave. Outside that, there wasn't anything like what we can think of. Go southern, cross Kaveri, and there wasn't any impact of Modi. So situation definitely has changed. So whatever the impression of the wave we had last time, so-called wave, has completely diminished. It's completely waned. And BJP, and it's like level playing field now. Congress and the BJP both are at the same level. I mean, maybe because of the, as an incumbent, BJP may have some advantage over others, and especially Modi's larger than life image. But otherwise, I don't think there is any great kind of a movement going in for the favor of the BJP. BJP is finding extremely difficult to match even whatever they did last time. So my hunch is that, as one of the panelists said, it will be something around 70 plus seats loss BJP alone will find. As it is, when we talk about 282, Actually, the number is 273 now because of losses in by-elections, including a couple of them in Uttar Pradesh and in Maharashtra also. So BJP number is, in any case, is down. So over and above that loss. And what are the 2-3 significant things? I think we should look at the by-election swing in Uttar Pradesh. 2016 assembly polls, BJP backed something like 51% votes in constituency like Gorakhpur. But in subsequent by-elections, the voting percentage has come down to, I mean, it's a huge drop. It's like 39%. So 13% swing away from the BJP indicates a lot that what we can imagine. And so things are not going to be, I think it's too much of media hype about the BJP's likely success. I don't think it's going to be so easy for the party.
Mr. Sen, I'm going to come back to you about Jharkhand. You did want to comment about Jharkhand and I interrupted you. I apologize. 12 out of 14 last time. Which way do you think it's going this time?
Well, it's certainly not going 12 out of 14 once again. I would suggest that it's going the same way as places like Bihar and to some extent Chhattisgarh is going. I think that there's a shift away from the BJP. The tribal alliances have changed. The Congress has, I think, tried to strike a proper deal there for a change. Jharkhand is going to be much as you find what Chhattisgarh and Bihar is going to be like, somewhere in between. But what I was going to say is that at this moment, just when we are looking at it, we've got a little more than half the seats have gone for election. 302, I think, yes, out of 543. 55%. 30 seats more than half. And there seems to be a, yes, 55%, that's right. There seems to be a palpable shift. I might be imagining things in the public displays that Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah are putting on. I know that they're walking around and that, but that swagger is missing. There's more of an avuncular smile in their face, if it can be. If you see Mr. Modi holding his finger, I just saw the visuals on this on the channel. He's sort of holding one finger in a sort of avuncular pleading fashion, saying, "Here I am, your favorite uncle, come to seek your blessings," and he's no longer swaggering. So, and Amit Shah going to Mathusri. This whole thing suggests that they are aware that they are not going to make the numbers that they made in 2014, which was they had a majority on their own, and which is why it allowed them to run roughshod over the Shiv Sena, to do various, well, they really actually, the Shiv Sena was the biggest victim of their
and
arrogance.
Chandrababu Naidu who walked away.
All that is missing as of now, and
yes, and I just...
Chandrababu Naidu walked away, and so now the reason why I'd like to just,
sorry, go ahead.
What I was thinking is that the point is that if the BJP doesn't have the commanding heights of that coalition, and it then has to depend more on the Shiv Sena, and let us say Jagan Reddy and so on, and in which case these guys are going to extract their pound of flesh. Jagan Reddy is facing charges, he's going to bargain with them. So will these all, and if they then want to go on to KCR, he's waiting in the wings to decide what he wants. So it's not going to be the same kind of government, even though maybe Mr. Modi will be the Prime Minister, that's not going to be the same.
Okay, so a couple of questions that have come in. Wajid Ali says, how tough is it for this government to nullify the anti-incumbency factor? And I'll come back to Maharashtra, that answer. And also, Vinay, Delhi, we haven't talked about Delhi yet. The candidate list itself was slightly, I think on both sides with the Congress and the BJP, a little odd. Hansraj Hans and, Gautam Gambhir, it just seemed like they were putting together a show.
But yes, but look, Delhi is a little different. Delhi is very unlike any other state, and Delhi is actually the only, technically, if I can use that word, apart from perhaps to some extent Kashmir, the only state that is casteless in some ways. They don't necessarily vote on caste lines. They do vote on regional identity basis. For instance, there is a very large section of the Purvanchali vote, as they call it, the Eastern UP and the Bihari vote, which is the reason why you see why Manoj Tiwari today is an MP from there and the Delhi BJP president, because there's a very large Purvanchali vote in that part of the world. Also, the inability of the Congress and the AAP to come up with an alliance will create issues. If they had come up with an alliance, it would have been a little more tough for the BJP. But East Delhi, for instance, because now Gautam Gambhir is pitted against Sheila Dixit and Atishi Marlina.
Yes.
And that will mean pretty much that Gautam, who, as I said, is the first time he'll ever cross the Yamuna in Delhi, might end up being in a stronger position than the other two.
Really? So Gautam Gambhir, you say, is in a stronger position than Sheila Dixit,
That's mathematical. So
multiple times Chief Minister, and Atishi
in a
Marlena,
first
who
past
is a Rhodes
post
scholar.
system, you could be the most popular and still end up losing, and the other way around too. Now, if you look at pure in terms of constituency work, Sheila Dixit goes back 20 years from East Delhi. She lost the first election in 1996 from East Delhi, more because the party sabotaged it and less because
And
she was a
Atishi
bad
is responsible for the education, the state education policies and the work that has been done in that.
Well, Atishi is also young and new in politics, but Sheila Dixit is a veteran in Delhi and enjoys a very good image. But
So just the idea that a cricketer who showed up yesterday might actually defeat Sheila Dixit.
So what is like? I mean, my favorite example in Delhi always has been Rajesh Khanna losing to Advani by 1,500 votes in New Delhi. Advani at that point in time was a colossal figure. I mean, he was the tallest leader of BJP. He won by 1,500 votes, and in the by-election, Rajesh Khanna won. So you can't predict that. But I'm just saying that in Delhi, more than Delhi actually, the neighboring state for me, the two states we haven't mentioned is Haryana and Punjab, where BJP has a tough situation. Mr. Khattar's government is unpopular. He has a serious anti-incumbency there. He's not exactly the most efficient of chief minister we've seen. There is a serious Jat agitation problem fallout. They're angry. And in Punjab, Amrinder is a old warhorse of politics who has ensured the Akalis are in a bad shape. And
He's also ensured that his party high command stays out of Punjab largely.
Which is what Rajshekar Reddy used to do in the south, for instance.
Yes.
And anywhere where the Congress allows that, they've done better because he understands the state much better. And Punjab also. So the Akalis are not in a good shape. So they have a bit of a problem both in Punjab and Haryana as well.
In Punjab and Haryana as well. Let's just go back to that last category, and this is the home base, and we call it really the home base because Gujarat is home turf for Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah, and for the BJP and the RSS in general, Maharashtra has always been home, and they had performed very well, if that's an understatement. In Gujarat, 26 out of 26, and Maharashtra, 23 out of 40. This is just the BJP, not the Shiv Sena included. Do you think, and I'll first take this question to Girish Kuber, how do you think the BJP is going to do in these three states, Goa included?
Yeah, I think my impression is that I traveled a lot in these 3-4 states. Impression is Shiv Sena is losing badly. Shiv Sena will be a major loser in this. I mean, there are some unexpected things have happened. Like, for example, take a few constituencies where MIM is seen taking initiative, taking lead because Dalit Muslims have come together to take on the BJP part. So my hunch is that last time BJP managed to, NDA, Shiv Sena, around 42 in Maharashtra. This time, I will not be surprised if they are seen losing something around 20 seats out of 48. So 28 to 30 will be very realistic kind of an assessment of Maharashtra political situation. Gujarat, what can happen in Gujarat, we have seen during assembly elections. If you look at the 2014 numbers, BJP should have backed something like 165 seats, but they were somehow managed to be just around 9,900. So things have changed drastically. And what is more indicative is yesterday's figure, which shows huge voting that has taken place in rural areas vis-a-vis cities. And in assembly elections, cities are the places where BJP managed, and in rural areas, BJP failed very badly. So if that is the trend going to continue in Gujarat also, and similarly in Maharashtra, because Maharashtra rural parts are, there is a complete rural-urban divide, agricultural distress, farm distress, and kind of a drought, the second, third year of drought. So my feeling is that these two states are not going to help BJP to kind of as a make-up for losses in Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. So things will go very bad for Maharashtra, I mean for BJP in Maharashtra and Gujarat.
Do you agree, Mr. Rao? BJP, and he also said the Shiv Sena is losing badly. Is that something you agree with?
Yes, Shiv Sena is fighting a very, very tough battle now because this is because for 4.5 years after assembly, Shiv Sena was totally anti-BJP. It was worse than any opposition party.
Yes.
Though they were part of the government in
They
center
questioned
and in
everything.
state.
Yes.
But at in the last month, they changed the direction, changed the gear, and came back to the alliance. I think those wounds are still alive in people's mind. with the language that was used by Shiv Sena and also BJP, and people have not forgotten that. So Shiv Sena is facing a very tough battle.
That's not the only reason, yeah.
Pardon me?
He said that's not the only reason.
Okay. Anyway,
Yeah, I said that's not the only reason, because, sorry, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Another salient feature of Maharashtra is perhaps the highest urbanized state. 67% of Maharashtra population is urbanized.
Yes.
So the rural and urban divide is lesser in Maharashtra than many other states. Yes, there have been farmer suicides, there have been cotton problem, there was sugarcane problem. Despite that, I would say that BJP will not be losing the battle the way it is being predicted. This is because, yes, NCP has posed a challenge, NCP,
Yes.
but not Congress. Congress is still very weak, and therefore Shiv Sena and BJP both would concentrate on the seats where Congress is contesting and not where NCP is contesting. Perhaps there is some invisible alliance also between NCP and BJP, because after Modi is his guru.
Yes. Mr. Pawar is Mr. Modi's guru.
And
yes.
he has publicly admitted that.
Yes.
So perhaps there is a soft corner. I don't know that.
So actually, let me take the question to Mr. Kuber. Here's the question that I'm genuinely asking as a citizen at this point. The Shiv Sena in the last 5 years has criticized the government. They began criticizing around demonetization.
No, even before that. From the day they sworn in the ministry.
Yes, from the swearing in, and where everybody was allowed to sit during that swearing in. So there was criticism about demonetization, about GST, about the lack of jobs, about the way the government was treating the Marathi people, about farmers' suicides, and about the land acquisition and the forest land and projects that the Chief Minister was personally looking at. Now in the alliance, Mr. Uddhav Thackeray has constantly made statements of how they were going to now build a temple for the people of Maharashtra, for whom all of these problems are real. Will the idea of a combined unit building a temple be enough?
Yeah. See, it's not working in the first place. And another reason it's extremely important to understand Shiv Sena and Shiv Sena's politics is that this is the only party that is trying to shift its core agenda. First it was Marathi Manus, then because of the Shiv Sena's role in 1980 mill strike, large number of Marathi people left Mumbai, huge migration happened, and they lost that Marathi issue. Then they tried for this Hindutva agenda, which is again it's question about its honesty, because it was like a put-on thing for the Shiv Sena. So it's not working either. And the current reason is that it is a huge anti-incumbency. Almost like 4-5 terms Shiv Sena haven't changed their MPs. Almost like all constituencies, if you look at. And the reason being, it's not that Shiv Sena leadership was not aware of the anti-incumbency feeling. The reason was that Shiv Sena was scared of any kind of rebellion by those satraps, regional satraps in various regions. So you have so many old guards sitting in Shiv Sena so-called bastions, and they are pitted against the NCP, which is invoked. I mean, this is completely charged NCP. This is not the NCP which was in 2014. So interestingly, the fight in 11 places is between Shiv Sena and NCP, in which NCP is having clear-cut edge over Shiv Sena because of various reasons, the kind of aggression in rural districts and kind of local issues. And a third point, what Mr. Raut said, which I beg to differ, is that number-wise, urbanization-wise, if you look at Maharashtra, it's highly urbanized state. But constituencies are not based like what they are. I mean, they're not as per the cities. If you look at the number, out of 48, something like 28 to 30 constituencies are in rural areas. So those constituencies are not going to vote the way Mumbai or maybe probably Thane is going to vote. So this divide is very much visible, and it will be seen in the result. I'm very sure about it, because the kind of feelings and the information and the feedback we are getting.
So let's pop up the south of India on the screen, but there's actually very little to talk about in the south of India, except how Karnataka is going to perhaps vote with the BJP. There wasn't much there to defend to begin with. It's only in Karnataka that the BJP has any presence to speak of at all. And perhaps in states like Andhra Pradesh and Kerala, not much has changed. It's really about allies. So I'll take the question about allies right now. And there are Vikas Singh has asked that question. Who's likely the most, who are the post-poll alliances for the BJP? Who will be the kingmakers? This is Prathamesh Singh who's asked this question. So it's in this part of the country that the alliances also may come from. And actually, if you consider the entire east side, there's Orissa, there's Telangana, there's Andhra Pradesh, and there's Tamil Nadu. This is perhaps where the kingmakers are going to come from, right?
Yes, they will. And not just the kingmakers. I think Tamil Nadu, for instance, has always played a big role in which party ends up governing India. I mean, in 2004, the DMK performed very, very well, and the Congress, having allied the DMK, ended up ruling and governing India for the next 5 years. If Congress had tied up with the AIDMK, they would have been perhaps sitting in the opposition. So they do play that big role. And this time again, the same narrative is perhaps getting repeated, because from all available indications from our people on the ground, you can almost sense that the AIDMK is in a bad shape in the state. I mean, post Jayalalitha, the party has been in a fairly bad shape. They've mishandled the state in many, many occasions. There is a deep anger, which most of the national media seems to have not picked up.
Yes.
But there is a deep anger about the NEET controversy that happened, and people are very upset about that.
Yes.
The cyclone reconstruction, for instance, is a big problem. Fishermen are upset. So you can clearly see the IDMK government is unpopular. And the Congress is allied with the DMK, so they have a bit of an advantage there already. In terms of kingmakers, well, both the kingmakers come from Kingshu's state currently, and they are sitting pretty. And I guess they are the ones who will perhaps go with whoever is in Delhi and whoever is willing to give their states the additional benefit of money.
So let me take that question to Mr. Nag. Mr. Nag, Jagan Mohan Reddy in Andhra Pradesh, ACR in Telangana, and of course Naveen Patnaik in Orissa. These are the people who will come in with the numbers and who will ask for their pound of flesh. Are they all, in your opinion, open to being allies of the BJP?
Yeah. Yes, all three are. Naveen Patnaik, though his main opposition in Odisha is today BJP, will support the BJP in the central government. I'm quite sure about that. And Jagan Mohan Reddy has no option. If BJP is going to form the government, he has to support the BJP because of the numerous CBI cases against him. As far as KCR is concerned, he is a player, but I do think he will support the BJP, though he's got his own terms, many terms, like he will probably want to play a bigger role at the center. Maybe he will want his daughter to become a minister and many other things. But so clearly these three guys are the allies, and there's no doubt about it.
I think these...
Nobody else. And one thing I wanted to talk about Gujarat. You have discussed...
Yes, go ahead please.
You have discussed it long about Maharashtra, but nothing about Gujarat. Gujarat, you have got 26 seats. Mr. Modi won 26 seats last time. This time I don't see him winning more than 20 seats.
Okay.
And this is because there were a lot of rural distress in Gujarat, though a lot of people are going to vote for him because he's the Prime Minister. It's after all a Gujarati regime, because he's the Prime Minister, the second most important person is Amit Shah. So it's a Gujarati regime, and a lot of Gujaratis will support for him. Even though if there were state elections, the number of votes that BJP could get would be much less. So we should not forget that fact.
Some very interesting questions coming in from our viewers, and I find this fascinating. One of the questions from Rashmi Singh is it possible for the AIDMK to ditch the BJP later?
No, they need them. If BJP is in a strong position, there are, for the same reason that Kingshuk mentioned for Jagan, why do you think the Tamil Nadu Chief Secretary, DGP were raided? There's a reason.
But also, I mean, it's all about necessity. At the end of the day in politics, you cannot rely on anybody, right? Anybody might turn at any point of time. Mr. Rao, question for you from Kumar Yash, who says, will the Shiv Sena and the BJP alliance appeal to Marathi voters? First question. And second one, and this one's interesting, why is Raj Thackeray against the BJP right now?
Oh my God. Second question I would answer first.
Yes.
This is because if you remember, before 2014 election, when Modi was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, Raj had visited Gujarat as a state guest.
Yes.
And had stayed there for over a week. And then he had all praises for Modi and his regime. So, but after 5 years, he has changed completely, upside down, 360-degree change. And he is absolutely against Modi per se. And of course, Shiv Sena is his
He's his rival.
enemy by
Yes.
birth.
Yes.
So, so he is against them. So this has happened perhaps because now Raj Thackeray is trying to find a space for himself in state politics. In 2009, he had won 13 seats in state assembly. And all his candidates, for some 7 candidates he had fielded for Lok Sabha, all had got more than 1 lakh votes individually in the Lok Sabha elections. That situation totally changed, and he was reduced to one seat in 2014 assembly election. So his position in the state is not only shaky, but he is not a force to reckon with. In that situation, he has to create a space for himself. He has to make his presence felt, and for that, if he had remained with BJP, perhaps he would not got the type of attention that he is getting.
But is there room for both the BJP and both Shiv Sena and Raj Thackeray in that alliance? Can they coexist?
Raj Thackeray would have loved to be in the alliance, but it was difficult, if not impossible, for Congress, NCP or BJP to take Raj in their side because after all it is they are national parties.
No, I mean all the MLAs have walked out to the other side. The ones that he had are all gone. So I mean your relevance and alliance is only when you have numbers with you.
And the real reason when
Mr. Kuber, go ahead.
Yeah, the real reason Raj is positioning himself is assembly elections in Maharashtra, which are due in October. So his role is, he wants to create a space for himself, rather he has created, and this is going to be the real X factor of, as far as Maharashtra is concerned, because kind of support he's getting, and this is the real ideal opposition space he wants to occupy now, because Congress, NCP, they had their own baggage. Shiv Sena did whatever it did, and it became a kind of a laughing stock. And now Raj has come on the scene at an exactly correct time. And now from here onwards, it will be Raj versus Shiv Sena, kind of a friction you will see in Maharashtra, because in October Maharashtra will go for assembly polls. So for Raj Thackeray, this is just a stepping stone. His real goal is assembly elections in October.
Right, and he is a talented orator.
Raj has kept his existence alive.
Yes, he's a very talented orator, Mr. Raut, and he's been putting out regularly videos on YouTube that are doing very well in terms of
video. That has become a punchline.
Yes, and he's got a very active team right now. They're sharing it. He's actually starting to create buzz among the people of the state.
If Raj had contested, if he had entered the fray as MNS, he would have been limited. He would have limited himself only to those constituencies, and he would have been one of the players. Instead, he saw to it that he does not run for himself, but he opposed the Congress Shiv Sena alliance, and that gave him bigger space
to play,
not only in media but among the people also. So he is as discussed as Uddhav Thackeray or Ashok Chavan or Prithviraj Chavan, or
even though he's not even contesting. All right, Badshah Sen, here's a question from Pankaj Mishra. Why is it expected from the BJD that they will join hands with the BJP? Why do people think that?
Well, Naveen's explicitly stated that he will go with anybody who can be useful and helpful to Odisha. And when Naveen Patnaik says helpful and useful to Odisha, he also means Naveen Patnaik. He doesn't surely mean Jay Panda, who's joined the BJP. So the point is, whoever's useful to Naveen Patnaik and to Odisha, he will go with. And since it is very likely that the BJP-led alliance will be back in power, maybe with reduced numbers, Naveen Patnaik will be useful to the BJP and its alliance, and they in turn will be useful to Naveen Patnaik. This is what.
But useful means what? And you know, I'm curious. When we say pound of flesh and negotiation, sorry, Jagan Mohan we know has cases against.
I mean,
what would be useful from Naveen Patnaik's point of view, Mr. Sen? And I'll come back to you.
Useful, well, one or two things which would be useful. Perhaps there would be one or two ministries for Naveen Patnaik, one or two ministries in Delhi, and and the other would be more funds for the development of the state. which is exactly what Chandrababu Naidu, of course, was asking for
The
special
same
funds.
card Chandrababu
Was
Naidu
asking
was
for
playing
special funds,
again,
which
with
was denied him. And
With the-
Atal
with
Bihari
the-
Vajpayee's
Status
government.
they
Yes,
call.
yes.
There is one other reason, just to add to what Badshah is saying, why Naveen Patnaik's probability, and I'll be using, is higher for the NDA, which is this. Odisha has just 3% Muslims. They have a Christian population, they have tribals, but they do not have Muslims. They're just 3%. The concept of polarization can't be played in that state, at least vis-a-vis the Muslims. And hence, in his politics, allying with the BJP does not make him lose as much as perhaps the other states. Some of the other states have a significantly higher number of Muslims, and it creates an identity problem for those chief ministers. Naveen Patnaik doesn't have that problem at all.
Last question, if I have enough time. Quick question, quick answer. The question is this. If we are saying that there will be grand alliances, and obviously we mean now the grand alliances on both sides, or to some extent, does this mean the government will be shaky or will not be able to complete the five-year term? And there's been a general understanding for some reason that coalitions are bad and it's khichdi politics and the country will suffer and the market will crash and terrible fire and brimstone will rain down upon us. So that's a misnomer, right, Mr. Rao?
No, I don't think that is the correct notion. In many places, in India also, many times these coalitions have worked very fine. For example, Narsimha Rao's government.
Yes.
It came as a coalition government. When Indira Gandhi came to power, I'm going way back in 69, 67, 69, 69, if I'm mistaken. That time she was in minority. When Congress split, she was in minority. It was a minority government. Same with UPA 1.
I'll tell you why people talk like this, because they routinely confuse between coalition governments and non-BJP, non-Congress, third front governments. The chaos has only happened 3 times when you had a non-Congress, non-BJP government at the center, in 77, and then when VP Singh came to power, and then the National Front government, which Ajit Devgowda and Chandrasekhar and I.K. Gujral led.
That's correct.
That's the only time when you had chaos. The rest of the
Will
coalition
it take
governments have run
77
perfectly.
also in that?
So,
Will it
so
take
basically,
77 also in that?
No, the Janata government, I mean, well,
But no, it was an alliance. It was a pre-poll alliance. It was a pre-poll alliance.
No, pre-poll, but I'm saying the contradiction of the alliance ensured that did not last. So ultimately.
so you're saying basically if there is one large national party leading the alliance,
alliances work fine.
Alliances work just fine. It's when there are lots of people are coming together.
The regional forces.
All of them with their own
You need to have one
reasons.
large single largest party. Even if it falls short by 100 or 90, it works perfectly fine.
It works perfectly fine. All right.
And I think after this election, the picture that I see, that Naidu and this Patnaik and AIDMK and KCR all will emerge as princely states. And then all will be acting for their own states. I don't know whether it is good for the union. If you consider India as a union.
Well, if you consider everything that we've said in the last 1 hour, we're talking about divide and rule based on caste and religion and then princely states. It sounds like 1920s. It sounds like we're going backwards.
Divided will stand.
Divided will stand.
Divided will stand.
All right, we've run out of time, but it is going to be fascinating, and that's for sure. So while I thank my panelists for giving us that time and for being very generous with their opinions, I want to remind our viewers that we'll be right here on Mirror Now with all of these panelists and conversations that you can hear and understand about how this election is going to turn out, an analysis of the votes, especially for the younger viewers who are perhaps tracking an election for the first time. This is where you'll get all your information. Good night and thanks for watching.